Hello, everybody, and welcome to Taking Back Our Country with me, Doc G, and of course, Scott Staffney and Kathy McGreevy, and our guest tonight. I want to welcome you back after a crazy election. I don't know what you would call it, guys. Just a crazy time in the U.S. history right now with stuff going on. So, I want to get your thoughts on all that too. But before we do that, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Doc G. I have Scott Staffney, Kathy McGreevy, and of course our guest. So you take it away, guys.
Hello. How is everybody tonight? We're here again on Monday night after a 3-week kind of taking a break period. But we're here again because we've made a commitment to try to take back our country, and this is one of the things we do in order to bring that about. Because we are aware that in order to achieve a goal, you have to put your attention to it, and so that's what we're putting our attention to now. Generally, we talk about why we're trying to take our country back, and that forces us to the realization that what we have become is an empire. And generally, it's Kathy's job to describe for us all what's the difference between a representative republic like the one we were planned to be, and an empire that is controlled by the gods on high, human gods, or human wannabe gods. Go ahead, Kath.
Well, it is definitely an important distinction because nowhere in the Constitution does it mention democracy. We are not a democracy. We are a republic under the constitutional rule of law. An empire is a nation or group of nations governed by a supreme imperial central authority that considers its people its subjects. Versus a republic, which is a nation or state in which the power for governance rests with the people, who then elect representatives from amongst themselves. And a republic under the constitutional rule of law protects the rights of each individual. And when we talk about rights, we talk about those rights inherent in our humanity. They are organic rights. They are ours because of creation. They are our creation. They would not exist, or they exist, whether government exists or not. In other words, these rights are secured by the Constitution. It's a limited principle document, and it is designed to protect those rights, not endow us with those rights. It is such an important distinction that people need to drill into their heads.
Well, I would agree. And, speaking of not being a democracy, we had that pretty well etched into our election last week. We think the person who got 1 million more popular votes didn't get elected. I'm not saying that I'm sorry about that, but I am saying it shows that that our system is designed in such a way that it's not the Democratic majority that runs it. It's designed so that the powers to be in each state have a more major say over who gets elected than the people do. Now, before I go on, I'd like to introduce our guest tonight, and he is David Malacher. David is, well, I'm going to let him introduce himself. He's a good friend of mine, and he has been doing a lot recently, particularly with the Libertarian parties, and is familiar with the movement to take our country back, hopefully by eliminating some of the, well, at least one, preferably both, of the two parties which run this country.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm David Malachar. I am an independent associate editor for the Liberty Chronicle Independent. We are an online digital news site, and we are getting crazy hits at this point in time. The mainstream media is definitely on its way out. The dying mainstream media, the people are tired of the lies and deception that they've been seeing over and over again, and the alternative media has taken off. So the website is libertychronicle.net, or on Facebook you can type in Liberty Chronicle Independent.
Oh, I'm sorry, say it again. It's libertarianchronicle.net.
Liberty, like as in like Liberty.
Oh, Liberty, sorry.
Yeah. Liberty Chronicle, yes. .net.
libertychronicle.net. Got it, thanks.
And the nice thing about the site is it automatically pulls in articles from around the world relating to those subjects. Is that the correct way of stating it, David?
Yes, so similar to how the conservatives have the Drudge Report, the Liberty Chronicle has become an alternative as a news aggregator. So it will pull information and articles every day and from all across the internet that's relevant to like libertarianism, the Green Party, a lot of independents and their news. And we highlight a lot of independent candidates as well. We give them the opportunity to have a platform where they can provide their information for press releases or media releases. We give them interviews. We try to highlight all the local things that are happening across the country that the mainstream media would normally ignore.
No, I think that's just great.
Kathy, journalists, actually. Kathy runs a small, along with her husband, runs a small print newspaper in the town, in the area known as the Quad Cities, which is along the Mississippi River, which separates the states of Iowa and Illinois. And Illinois went for Clinton and Iowa went for Trump. Did you see that coming, Kathy?
Well, I probably did, just because Iowa and Illinois always do, well, I shouldn't say always, Obama is an exception, but they do line up right versus left. Illinois being left, Iowa usually being right. But I'm fascinated by what Dave is saying about his digital presence, because I think that it has been demonstrated unequivocally that the mainstream media has lost its way entirely, and they have outed themselves for, pretty much a corporate media bought and sold, doing the bidding of their benefactors. But what interests me, Dave, is the revenue model for sustaining your digital presence. Because we're newsprint, we're in our 23rd year, and it is definitely, print news is really hard to handle anymore. The cost has skyrocketed, and we're a bi-weekly. And so we've been talking a whole lot about reinventing ourselves and what that might look like.
Well, digital news is the future. Everyone has
a
mobile device in their pocket these days with a connection to the internet. And the way everyone is glued to social media, for example, a lot of people are getting their news from social media, so the articles that people are sharing online are being passed around that way. So we're seeing a more organic news product that is being produced out there, where the individuals are basically saying, well, I'm interested in learning about this, so I'm going to go look at this, this, and this, and they subscribe to all these different things, whereas the mainstream media just spoon-feeds you what they want you to see at all times. So
that's right.
The choices that the people have are so much better. So ultimately, in almost like a free market style solution, the better product won.
Mm-hmm. And basically, what I was asking, I completely get the philosophy of it and couldn't applaud it more. but in terms of making money and sustaining it, that is it. I mean, is it still ad revenue like the traditional way?
Well, there is the ad revenue. It's not quite as lucrative as one would believe. You'd have to be receiving multi-million hits on a regular basis for it to be very profitable. However, we are good at innovation in the independent side of things. So
I'm sorry, say it again.
We're very good at innovation on the independent side of things. So what we do is we have it where individual companies could purchase ads on our articles, so that way that they know that they're getting that exposure to the audience that they're buying for. So we encourage anyone that has a national liberty-minded company, whether it's a product of liberty related, or if they just want to reach out to liberty-minded people, they can feel free to advertise on our website. And they know that they're going to get that audience that they're specifically trying to target. So the other aspects would be to keep the costs down. So one of the things that we do is the server that we use, we do not actually have a monthly service fee for it. So there's no real big overhead, and it allows us to be so much more flexible.
Wow, that's cool. Huh. Well, I just applaud you because I do think it is the future. You know, I had a big epiphany today, and naturally it was in conjunction with something my husband said about the media. And, you know, I wrote the last couple of editorials, I really laid out my disdain for what's happened, the devolving of the fourth estate. And I thought to myself, they failed so miserably in their mission to get Hillary elected, and the bias was so glaring. It just, and whether you're a Trump supporter or a Hillary supporter, the point being is that you don't expect that degree of bias in your media, in your mainstream, your corporate media, but it's there. They've outed themselves. I agree with you. I think they're on their way out. They're irredeemable. And then today it hit me like a ton of bricks as I'm watching all the protests going on, and I'm flipping through the channels like I always do, including C-SPAN, looking at the delivery, the message, the narratives, which are almost always the exact same. They're just blaming somebody else. And I realized that they did not fail in their mission one little bit. In fact, they have been uber successful in their mission, and that is to keep this country divided along liberal conservative lines. Whether that translates to Republican, Democrat, in the future, I don't know. But they have absolutely hit their mark in terms of keeping the arena mentality going. And I realized sitting there that that's what this is really about.
That's exactly true.
The end.
I think you've got a lot of what we agree on there, Kathy. I think that nobody knew that what was going to happen election, with all the stuff going on. And
right.
I mean, with all the negative stuff from my friends at the Pentagon and the DOJ and different areas, they really thought that there was going to be, I don't want to say an upset, but they actually thought Hillary Clinton was going to win. But, I think... Oh,
I know it. I mean, that was the narrative from stem to stern.
And that's the lesser of two evils. So who's the lesser of two evils in this? I think they're both evil. I don't know. We talked about this before. And I'm not going against Trump supporters, and I'm not going against Hillary supporters. But I am going for what's right for America. And I don't believe we still have that yet.
Well, but Scott said it best when, we were pointing out this justification for voting for the lesser evil is still voting for evil. And at some point, we have to get out of that justification and say, no, that's unacceptable. But it's never, ever going to change as long as the status quo has prevailed through this division.
Well, see,
as long as it's party over principle, we are doomed.
Right, and that's the problem. Dave, with your e-zine, I just want to ask you a quick question. This is Doc G. I just want to ask you a quick question. As you do your information, as you gather your information, do you see any type of certain way we are going in the future? In other words, can you tell that we're going to be starting to vote for more third-party candidates, or that's going to be eliminated, or it's almost like a up curve in the stock market? Can you see something like that politically through that gathering the information?
Absolutely, and you can go into Google right now and you can type in this article titled "Millennials Reject the Two-Party System."
Cool.
And there's an article that I wrote that's gotten around, pretty popular right now. The two-party system to the millennials is basically dead. The millennials have grown up on the internet, and they've had that alternative media in front of them their entire lives. So they've rejected the mainstream narrative completely. And we see, just this election alone, Gary Johnson for the Libertarian Party was able to increase the Libertarian vote by 400% since the 2000 and, what was it, the 2012 election. That was the last one with Barack Obama. And the Green Party, which has also been considered a very small, minor party on the map, has increased their percentage. I believe that they received over 1.5% of the national vote, which is pretty historic for them as well.
Right.
And the Libertarians were hopeful that they were going to get at least the 5% for the minor party status, which would allow a third party to have federal funding. They would be able to receive up to $10 million, which that kind of funding would be able to help them compete on the same level as the two-party system. And I firmly believe that with the way things are going, the continuing trend of the mainstream media going away and alternative media taking its place, in the next 4 years, you're going to see so many people that have basically shut out mainstream. And even some of the older generation, the baby boomers, are catching on as well. A lot of our audience is millennials for the Liberty Chronicle Independent. However, we are seeing a lot of the older generation that is tuning in as well. It's pretty interesting to see the dynamic and the shift in the consciousness of the people in general in this country. So I believe that within the next, I originally said 16 years, but I believe within the next 8 to possibly even 4 years, we could see a third-party candidate be elected to the United States presidency.
So that's not bad news, guys. That's really not bad news. You know, we've got to slowly, gradually get in there to do it, to change things. But that's actually good news, Dave.
Well, I think what I do, I agree, and I voted for Gary Johnson personally, and we were thrilled to see that he got the 2% required in the state of Iowa to be on the ballot next general election. And I think he succeeded in every state in the union, I hope. I haven't verified that yet.
He didn't here.
Oh, he didn't make the 2%?
No, we have 5% here. And
oh, it's
David,
5%?
how much did he get?
I don't know.
David, are you there?
Yes, it's close to 5% right now, and I believe that they're still counting ballots. So we'll see the full results here within the next couple of days. It's very close.
Oh, good. Well, that's good news. But I was going to say that the efforts afoot now for reorganization and regrouping by both the Democrat Party and the Republican Party are going to be fierce, because they know that they're looking at the abyss, and they can't have that. And so they will be so well funded, and the mainstream media will be so co-opted that I can't think of a better time for digital news organizations like yourself and others who are attempting to provide alternative sources. It's just so important, but we have to be willing to engage. And everybody knows my mantra is engage locally. But when you engage locally, that automatically trickles up.
Well, and actually, we've here started to engage in Washington through the Garden Alliance and the Church of the Gardens.
Right.
And there's a lot of synergy going on, and it will be very interesting to see. Another thing I wanted to talk about is it seemed like for a moment, for a very short period in time, the media got the message that we, the people, don't trust them, don't like them,
Right.
and consider them the same as our government. I mean, it seemed when I was listening to NBC and traveling the channels during the elections, they were saying, well, obviously they don't. The people that elected Trump don't trust the government, and they don't trust the media. And I ran at one point for Congress, and I got an invitation to go to the Seattle Times to do an interview. And I wrote them, and I told them, I'm not going to go to your to interview with you guys. I consider you a part of the enemy. And I got recently a notice from this magazine where somebody had nominated me to be some sort of lawyer in a magazine, and I haven't written my response yet, but it's going to be, look, I don't want to be a super lawyer. I think we live in a time of legal cabals. I want to be an advocate of the people, and I don't want to be recognized for being at the top of a profession that I've come to believe is not a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Dave. I think that after this call, you and I should definitely work together and get your magazine out to a lot more people on the internet. I really think that that's going to be a positive thing, especially getting these third-party candidates out there. I think people are turning off to main media, which is great, and I see a lot of that, so I'm trying to push that as well.
And Kathy's always said, they're the same, and they are. I mean,
yep.
The government and media are one and the same, although, and they work for this election. They just got beaten, which is great.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I think we haven't seen anything yet in terms of the divisiveness that's coming on the part of, and the implementer will be, the executor of it will be the mainstream media.
Can I also say something too, real quick, guys? I think that what you said is true, Scott, but also you got to understand something, that a lot of these interconnecting ties are also spouses, aunts, uncles, nephews, cousins, friends that are in other parts of the media. That's why they share so much of the same business sense, and that's why they share so much of the same stories and stuff, and actually the same attitude towards things, because there's no competition out there. Well, now they have a new competition,
Mm-hmm.
and the people are aware of that, so that's all we can focus on right now.
Well, some of the age-old things that caused the fourth estate to be reliable and trustworthy is that they actually left their biases behind, and they focused on facts and verifying those facts and sourcing them and producing reliable information. We used to have a very adversarial relationship with authorities, the media did. We were both trying to find the truth and trying to scoop it to be, because the authorities were always trying to find the answers, and so was media. And today, the media gets handed the press releases, spoon-fed the information, regurgitated over the airwaves, and there's very little verification. They use the words like may have, allegedly, could be, likely, probably. I mean, none of this. This is guided speculation. It is not news, and yet we're swallowing it.
You're exactly right. Scott, do you want to take any calls? There's a couple people that have some comments.
Sure.
They want to comment, so I'm going to give the number out. It's 609-503-4058. 609-503-4058. If you have any comments, we'd love to hear from you. Scott Scaffney, Doc G, of course, and Kathy McGreevy, and Dave Melkor. So continue on. Go ahead, guys. I'll take a couple
Kathy.
calls as soon as they call.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
you go
I'm trying
ahead.
to write a brief as we're talking. Well,
Oh, that's okay.
I don't know if you remember Duncan Robertson, and I'm sitting. I've been just writing these briefs and putting them out, and it's so obvious that the country has really gone to the dogs or the wolves. When you look at what these legal cabals do, and the people basically have no chance. 85% of the people can't afford lawyers. So one of the things
Right.
that we're doing in the Garden Alliance, and we're also doing as part of my law firm, are creating advocacy positions for people who have had to fight for themselves and have learned the law, especially the substantive law, really well. We're going to make them available to others to help them. It's kind of really interesting because one of the folks we've got, and this is in all sorts of areas, like those people who have had their children taken from them by CPS. That's something that will cause a parent to get very fluent with regard to the law. And when they are given the opportunity to help somebody in a similar situation, they become very passionate. And so one of the things that we're doing here at our law firm, and primarily through the Garden Alliance and the Church of the Garden, is to create people's advocates that can help we the people. I mean, it's just way out of hand that we have these legal cabals being paid by these banks that have limitless funds. I mean, the country is really fallen down, and Trump was right when he criticized federal judges. I mean, now at least we have a president who clearly criticized federal courts, and the courts can see, notwithstanding, everybody's reaction, like Hillary and the media's reaction to the criticism of the federal courts, Trump got elected. And there's a reason for that.
Right.
Trump's not the only one who's kind of disappointed and appalled by our judicial system and what they call our justice system.
Well, but does anybody want to add to that?
Well, no, I
That with the 10-foot pole.
No, I agree with that, and I think that what I'm fascinated by when you say advocates, and are you talking about people who know the law but are not lawyers?
Yes.
Who can go? Can they go into your courts in Washington and represent without the designation of counsel?
Yes and no. I mean, under the American with Disabilities Act, a person with a disability is entitled to have someone go sit with them at the council table, and because federal law preempts state law, that goes on fairly regularly. There also is an advocate. For example, one of the people that is working as an advocate here, we had some people that needed to get some money from a bank where they had deposited a check. And I guess you can now deposit checks by taking a picture with your phone of the front and the back. If you do that, the bank sometimes won't give you your money. So you're stuck having the money in the bank, but you don't get any of it. And so what we did was put an advocate on it.
Right.
Now, the advocate called the bank, and actually it wasn't a bank, it was a credit union, and advocated for the person and was able to get most of their money out and actually get some year-old charges undone. Same way with debt collection. I mean, there's a lot of people that can help people, especially when they've been involved themselves. And I've seen this a lot in foreclosure. I tend to get very knowledgeable clients with regard to foreclosure because, I live out in the middle of nowhere, and if you're going to come to me, you have to have heard about me, so you have to have done a little bit of work. But it's also true with regard to CPS. It's also true with regard to incarceration. And the thing that is really kind of amazing about this is people become passionate. And it's right up your alley because it's a community thing. It's people helping people within their respective communities.
Right.
And they will go into those courts. Hopefully we'll have them marching into those courts, and they'll be able to watch the judges, and they'll be able to see what's going on. And while it may be inappropriate for them to provide such advice, and I'm not sure that I would agree. It may be illegal to do so, but
that's what I was going to say. But I'm getting your drift, and I think it is a fascinating model too, because there is a lot you could do before you ever walk into court to help them, advocate them, get things done, get things through the recording process, document production, and all manner of things.
Well, David is an advocate for us, and David, the program's just starting to take off, and we're getting other lawyers on board. So one of the things we're planning on doing is putting a website out there that will allow people in different areas to put forth complaints and actually write them, get discovery appropriate for their situation in a lot of different areas. I mean, you've got, and this show has been one of the primary ways that I have come to learn of where we need advocates. We need advocates to prevent guardian abuse. We need them to prevent elder abuse. We need
patient advocacy is huge. Yes.
Caller, hang on. We have a call, Scott. If I can get him in there really quick.
Sure.
All right. Go ahead, caller. Who are you? Where are you from?
John Wright, Piggy Bank Blog. Good evening.
Hey, John.
Hey, John.
Hey, John.
How are you?
It's great to hear you guys out there. I'm enjoying the show already. I had a question for you both. You'll probably either answer the same or completely different. The Trump election here was a total phenomenon. Like everybody else, I thought Hillary Clinton was going to win. In your opinion, considering that both Obama and Trump has both run under the word change, why do you think that he won?
Go ahead, Captain, and I'll go afterwards.
Well, I think I really do have to think. Well, I think it's kind of twofold. I think it was a thumbs down to the way our government has handled things, and not just Obama's administration, Bush before him, and Trump presented the image of the outsider. And I do think that middle class America is really hurting. I see it all the time here in Iowa. There is a definite stagnation that is unique as long as I've been on the planet. And I think that these things, that dollars aren't buying what they used to. Wages are terribly stagnant in our neck of the woods. And I think that's true for a lot of what they call flyover country, as the mainstream media is calling it right now. But so I think it's really, it's as much a protest vote as it is. And Hillary was just so unacceptable to so many people. And they saw her as an utter establishment candidate. And now my problem is that I'm not sure Trump is any different, but at least there was the possibility that he would be, and that I think they went with that.
I think people even liked the idea that he was so unacceptable to the media and to
Right.
Washington. They actually wanted to wipe the base, or to punch the base of the people who run America. If they were allowed to have an impact on bankers, I think they would burn the banks down.
Yes.
I mean, we in America and we poor citizens of this empire have been treated very poorly, and I think the inclination is we want to treat those people who have treated us so poorly very badly. We want to send them a message, and actually we want to punish them because of what they've done to us.
And in the 2008, 2009, and 10, when people lost huge percentages of their portfolios, investment portfolios, whether they were pensions, 401ks, whatever it was, the degree of wealth that people actually lost is really significant. And while the government would act and have you believe in our congressman that we're recovering, we're doing fine, we're moving on, we're, headed in the right direction, we know that wasn't happening in America for the average fellow.
Yep.
It just wasn't happening, and I see that people working every bit as hard, harder, and not realizing any gain in all that increased productivity.
I would have to add to that, Kath.
Say it again?
I would have to add to that, to Obamacare as well. That was a big, big issue.
Yeah, that was a big issue, and it continues to be, and I agree 100%. But that, and people call Obamacare, they kept talking about Obamacare as healthcare, and it is not healthcare. It is another form of insurance.
Right.
It is, right. But at the same time, I think Obamacare reminds me of the butterfly story, if you ever heard that. The butterfly story goes like this. There was a developer who wanted to develop buildings on a piece of property for homeless people, which sounds good, but they declared that the land that they wanted to build it on was a butterfly sanctuary. Well, now the homeless people and the developer were really unhappy. So the developer, he burned down the land. That way there's no more butterfly sanctuary. And everybody was happy, the developer and the homeless people, unless you were the butterfly, right?
Right.
So I think Obama cares that way.
Yeah, that's a really great analogy.
Yeah, it depends on whether you're the butterfly or not.
Right, that's right. It's always about whose ox is being gored. And that's the problem with central authority, everything being planned in a cookie cutter way, and the redistribution concept. And because it no matter how, the pie is only so big, and all you're doing is changing the size of the slice or moving the knife around. It's never going to be equitable, and somebody's always going to be excluded, and it's just the nature of it. And until we get over that notion and start adding common sense back in here, and looking at socioeconomic models for what they really are, not what we ideologically think they are.
Right, and how much did you guys think, like, for example, was it so much that people liked Trump, or was it they really didn't like Hillary? So my question is, what do you think would have been different if they would have ran Bernie, for example? Would Bernie have won?
I think Bernie would have totally won. But, I think Trump is smarter than a lot of people give him credit for. I think that he would have used a different strategy against Bernie. I think that people are just so mad at the system and our elected representatives that they would probably elect anyone. And the problem they're having is they don't know how to get rid of the Congress people and the senators. I mean, he has such a disapproval rate of those people, and yet they're what they call durable incumbents. Even though nobody likes them, everybody hates them, we can't get rid of them.
Right.
Well, because we vote party over principle still. As long as we are unwilling to vote for the other party, not the person, the party, we are never going to get out of this wheel we're on.
Yeah.
David, you're still there.
Yes, and I've got plenty I could add.
Doug, do you want to add something? Feel free.
Yeah. Yes. So the reason why Donald Trump was elected is because the people as a whole are terrified of Clinton. They were very familiar with how her policies were under Secretary of State status and under the administration of her husband. We have seen with the millennials specifically, they were terrified of being possibly drafted, both men and women, to
Really?
war, because Clinton openly endorsed the draft for both men and women, and that's out this year. You can look online on Google to find the articles. They also were terrified of her going to war with Russia. She was talking about possibly even starting a new Cold War, and that was nothing that anyone wanted. So on the millennial side, there was just complete fear of being drafted to possibly being involved in another world war. And no one wants war. We've had 16 years plus of war constantly under both Bush and Obama, and nobody wants to see more war. The other aspect is Trump had gone in to the Republican Party and essentially blew out every neocon. Every neocon that stood in his way, somehow, some way, he was able to shut them down every single time, to the point where the last man standing was Cruz, and then Cruz dropped without even much resistance. And then Trump just unanimously got the nomination. Now, since then, he has changed his campaign rhetoric a little bit. He dropped a lot of the extremist things that he was saying, and he was able to fine-tune his message a little bit better. He did very well in the debates against Clinton. He was a strong leader. Obviously, we've seen throughout history, the taller candidate always wins, considering like with the JFK, for example, with Richard Nixon. JFK always did much better on TV than Nixon, and what did we end up with? Everybody liked the way that JFK presented himself. Donald Trump presents himself as a strong individual, and he has a track record of knowing how to run businesses. Now, we understand there's been a couple failures. He's had a couple bankruptcies, but in comparison to the almost near 100 other businesses he's had, he's been very successful. So people were looking at him as the anti-establishment candidate. And I do want to note that since he's been the president-elect, we've had Syria basically say that they wanted to bring on more cooperation with the United States. We've seen Vladimir Putin from Russia say that he wants to have great ties with the United States. The NAFTA deal with Canada and Mexico, Canada openly said they're ready to negotiate a new NAFTA deal. The White House dropped the TPP completely. They said that the stock market was going to crash. None of these things happened. All the fear-mongering that came out of the left the entire time, that constant rhetoric that came out of the left and the mainstream media totally turned everyone off, and they said, we've had enough and we're done with it. And that's why you saw the overwhelming support from both the LGBTQ community, from the minorities, from the rural communities of the city. It didn't matter. People were just tired of it, and they said, this is the anti-establishment candidate, and this is our best shot. Now, whether or not they knew about the third parties, that's up to the third parties if they were able to advertise themselves well enough. But I think at this point that majority of Americans said, well, they've got that mindset of, I have to pick the lesser two evils. Let me pick the guy that's not going to send me to war. Let me pick the guy that's going to try to make the economy better and have care for the rural areas where the jobs have left.
Jobs is dead.
They are.
Yeah,
and today I saw an article about Ford. Ford is closing a factory in Mexico and bringing it back to the United States. So many things have changed positively since Trump has been elected. The only negative thing that we're seeing is the protests from the left side, which they are still hanging on to the rhetoric that he's sexist, misogynistic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And they're not looking at the facts. So
well,
we have
that's right. And I completely agree with that.
Can I interrupt just for a second? I mean, I don't think it's just that. I think that it takes more than being a businessman to be the president of the United States. I'll give you an example. I could not disagree more with Trump on him saying, let's pull money out of the Middle East and start just taking care of America. Right? I think we should take care of America, but I'm saying anybody who thinks about it, like, for example, you have, like, let's say something like Central LA, where you had riots. Why is there riots there? Why is there not riots in my neighborhood, in your neighborhood? And the reason is because they lack education and opportunity. So what we need to do is invest more money into Central LA so that they have something to lose. So I say instead of dropping bombs in the Middle East, drop flat screen TV sets, is what I say. All right, so I couldn't disagree with him on that more, as well as there's another thing that I totally disagree with him on, and I'll let you guys comment after this, is the thing where he keeps trying to push the thing where he blames the Obama administration for withdrawing the troops out of Iraq. That is totally false. That was George Bush, who made an agreement with Iraq, who said that we'd have all our troops out there by December 2011. That wasn't Obama's fault. That's a rumor. That was George Bush's fault. So what I'm saying is I think it takes more than just being a businessman to be president.
Now let me ask you a question, John. What's going on with your life? So our listeners know, we've got with us John Wright, the what do you call yourself? Host of, or the writer of, you are Piggy.
Blogger, host, radio show host. Yeah, I got my radio show. I got my blog, but I've retired from all that right now. I'm just kind of after 7 years, I'm taking a break. So right now I'm just a listener. That's why I call in as a listener instead of being the host. But I'm doing all right. Thanks for asking.
Are you still in, you moved, and where are you now? Are you in the place you moved to and you're happy?
Yeah, I'm slowly getting happy. I owned my own house for 12 years, and now I'm renting. But, that takes a little adjusting to. But other than that, I think, slowly but surely, I'm enjoying renting now.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you went through?
Oh, absolutely.
Great.
Yeah, I like a lot of people, I'll just tell you, I had a business for 25 years, and then the economic crisis hit America, and I lost my business in that. All I was looking for from the bank was a loan modification. That's how it started out. And what happened is that turned into a bunch of red tape and a bunch of runaround. And so I opened up my protest blog, piggybankblog.com. And I learned a lot more being out there than just about the loan modification. I found out the banks were, they didn't even know who owned your loan. So I fought that for 7 years. And amazingly, I didn't have to pay a mortgage for 7 years. But eventually, I decided to short sale because I was tired of fighting, and that's why I ended up renting right now. But yeah, that's how I started out, Scott, was arguing about the loan modification.
And tell the folks about Stuttering Stew and the little piggy noses you would put on the bank executives, and a lot of people maybe don't still know you, but
right.
You've got some interesting stories to tell. You just want to drop a few for us?
Yeah, no problem. I mean, when I started out, I sued the bank for the loan modification, and they had the Bank of America attorney whose name was Stuart Price. And I showed up for court, and the poor guy accidentally stuttered in court, so he became Stuttering Stewart in my blog. And the crowd really loved that. They used to put in the comment section, more Stuttering Stewart. Right? Everybody liked it except for Stuttering Stewart. And but that's how he ended up with the name Stuttering Stewart. What was the other part of your question there? I forgot the other part.
Well, the part about the nose. Wasn't there...
Oh, the piggy nose.
Didn't the president of the Bank of America ask you to take the nose off him?
Yeah. They called me at 6:30 in the morning, and they had another request. It had nothing to do with the piggy noses. But what I used to do, so the audience understands, is if you really were a piggy, and you're a CEO of the bank, what I would do is take a piggy nose, and put it right on your face, and it fit really good on the Bank of America CEO's face. I mean, it looked like it was him. And they would watch these things I heard in the board meetings. They would have it up on the screen, and they'd see the piggy nose on him. He had a good sense of humor about it, but not too many other people. But yeah, one time they called me at 6:30 in the morning making another request, and once I granted them their request, they said, "What do we got to do to get that piggy nose off the CEO of Bank of America?" I said, "There's nothing you can do. He's the star of my show," and it's still there to today.
Well, I think I asked one time, but you had pretty well stopped it, to put a piggy nose on Fred Burnside, who is, of course, the symbol of the kind of symbol of the evil lawyer, the one who has no empathy. I mean, you look into his eyes and you see hollowness. And I remember I wrote a blog against it. I called him, what did I say, loathsome. And he was so upset. He got me in a deposition one time, and he took about an hour and a half talking about my few comments about him. We'll see. He's still trying to get me in the deposition. We'll see what he does. But his law firm, Davis Wright Tremaine, is the only one that is associated, so far as I know, with China. They've got an office in Shanghai. Former Governor Gary Locke works there. But I mean, that's the problem. We have kind of these legal cabals that have no morals, and they don't care about the law. There's no love of the law. The only thing they want to do is achieve the results so they can rake in money. It's all about tilting the world completely toward the money and toward 1%. And it's amazing that these would-be lawyers go along with that. I mean, lawyers at one time, law was once a noble profession. It's not anymore.
No, it's not.
Well, Scott, look at the phenomena today. Wells Fargo, for example, managed to turn 5,000 employees into crooks.
Right.
And these were well-meaning people. You just know they were not all mean and nasty people. They were doing their job, but regardless, their income and saving their job and doing what it took to keep that job was more important on some moral level to them than anybody else's money or anything they might be taking from somebody or any way they might be hurting somebody else financially. 5,000 people were willing to go along with that.
And that
blows my mind.
Well, yeah, we all saw the robo-signer on, what was it, 60 Minutes? He said, yeah, they paid me minimum wage, and I signed Linda Green millions of times. I'm like, arrest him. Put him in jail. He just admitted it on 60 Minutes. They said, well, he's just a lower-end employee. I'm like, put him all in jail. Let's start with him. We all know that you can't falsify documents. It doesn't matter. Like, if they try to give me minimum wage to package heroin, I'm sorry, that's illegal.
But then in this country, we've gotten to the point, especially with media, where we demonize the whistleblowers. And, 2 decades ago, the whistleblowers were the total...
the media is the government. The whistleblowers are telling on the media, and the media doesn't want to hear it because they're informing on them. I mean,
Well, but it's also the people
Trump
too.
can do something, and
But it's the people too.
You're right, Scott.
I agree.
You're right. I mean, when I put that piggy nose on the CEO, I have a tracker on my site. That's the first time I've seen Homeland Security come on my site. And they came on every day after that when I put the piggy nose on him. But yeah, I think that the court of public opinion is the government. But this kind of leads me into my next question that has, something to do with your guest topic here, is really how much do you think it played into the election that we didn't hold these bank CEOs and these people in the banks accountable? For example, if we would have held them accountable, do you think that people would have viewed putting somebody like Trump or Hillary in there would have really, altered the final conclusion on that? I mean, that's my question there. If we would have held the banks accountable, do you think it would have came out?
And I do have an opinion on that. I think if we had allowed the people jury trials and we had not literally destroyed our legal system and our system of evidence to benefit the banks, people would have been willing to perhaps listen. I think right now that most people don't even want to hear what these folks have to say. The reason people are out there demonstrating is not only about Trump, it's because the country isn't working. I mean, the people are so fed up that, they just need a reason to get on the streets. And for those of us that want communities, and we want to see communities take back their power, we should encourage these demonstrations. These demonstrations are a good thing because they involve people getting out of their chairs, getting away from the TV, and going on to the streets. If we're going to take our country back, that's the way we're going to have to do it.
Right.
It's still a herd mentality, though. You want to make a real difference, take a fraction of that group and have them show up on a monthly basis to a city council meeting or a county board meeting. Right. Or that's where you will create change. Walking around on the street at night is not going to create any real change.
I agree.
If you people show up, a fraction would 10 people more than do now would make just an incredible impact.
Yep.
I agree 100%, and that's one of the things that the advocates are going to be doing. They're going to be showing up. I mean, one of the things that we're looking to do is elect advocates. I'm not so sure that I think any of the third parties are working, and I'm not sure we shouldn't start looking to have the Democratic Party implode. And I think the real distinguishing factor between the parties should be those that are for a federal, national, trickle-down government, and a party that's for communities, a party that wants to network communities together to protect the people within them and give them the opportunity to realize their full potential. Right. I think and a party of people's advocates could work.
Yeah, I like the advocate notion. I like deploying that community-wide. That'd be a neat movement. But you need people who, it's going to require a lot of time, and most people don't, have a whole lot of free time that they have to be earning. But
interesting, though, we got all these people out demonstrating on the streets. I mean, where are they most days?
Well, they look like they're in school. They look pretty young. I don't know. I can't speak to that. I don't.
Maybe too young to be taken seriously, right? Do you remember? Do you remember out in front of the what was it? They were there in New York and Wall Street, and they were all protesting, the stock exchange, all this kind of stuff. At the same time, they were all on their Apple laptops, right? Meeting. So it might be, but I'd be interested to find out what your guest thinks. To my question there, how much he thinks that maybe not holding the banks accountable played into this election here. So I was just interested in maybe what the guest had to say.
So I do want to stress that yesterday, for example, here in Seattle, they had a protest, the march that went into the streets, and I actually covered it from start to finish. I walked with these people for 3 hours, and I have an article that's going to be coming up tonight on libertychronicle.net. But we have the live stream on the Facebook page right now, and we were able to speak with these individuals, and a lot of these millennials, I was able to actually grab the megaphone and speak and address the entire crowd, and I told them that they need to use their energy towards the legislation, that they must hold their politicians accountable. And it seemed like a light bulb kind of went off when I was talking to these people, because I said that the two-party system is to blame. I referenced Bernie, how he was basically robbed of the nomination, and I told them that they've got to protest at the houses, at the offices of their politicians, and to hold them accountable for everything, and to use that energy and aggression that they have towards a productive measure that will cause real change to occur.
Right.
So the light bulbs kind of seemed to have lit up a little bit, and there was talks of organization, of more people getting together on a regular basis, rather than just this outburst that's happening right now. Because right now we just see an uncontrolled outburst that's happening. And these younger people, they just need some direction. And I feel that if the third parties can jump on this and sort of take advantage of the situation while the fires are hot and direct them to channel their energy better, then we very well could see tremendous change in just a matter of a couple months, because we're seeing hundreds of people in the streets.
John, I'd like to speak to what you asked too, though. I'd like to, because I think it was very relevant. I think part of the anti-establishment mentality, the sentiment now, has a lot to do with rules for them, rules for us. And there's been so much egregious conduct on the part of banksters, on the part of GovCo, on the part of authority. And I think that that has just gotten to the tipping point for a lot of people. And I do think that Trump, being the outsider, claiming he knew how the crooked system worked, so he'd be able to get, flesh it out. I think that was appealing. And I do think that those banks being not held accountable and people not going to jail from as far back as 2008 absolutely is stirring around at the core of all this.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And, because really I think we all agree here that both Obama and Trump ran on the whole word change. Remember, we used to see change right underneath Obama's name.
Yep.
But apparently people didn't think that it changed. You know what I mean? So now they think Trump represents that change, and they might be right.
Well, but that's because it didn't.
Right. But I'm saying, when Obama helped the banks, he still helped the banks, and that's why I'm wondering how much that played into it, and I agree with your answer. All right? But I'm saying, if we would have held the banks accountable instead of bailing them out, maybe that would have been something
I agree.
Maybe that would have been changed.
President Obama, I remember, I didn't vote for him, but I remember the first time he was elected in 2008, there was a part of me that just hoped he would be the real deal. But he doubled down exponentially on almost every bad policy George Bush put in place.
That's right.
George Bush doubled down on every bad policy that Clinton put in place. So it's been 3 decades of just deterioration. And that's what I think you're seeing here, is that Trump just came at a time when they wanted anybody else but, another establishment politician, because we're reining them.
Right.
And that guest that Scott gets on, the fellow with Restore the Republic, Restore Representation, he's got it right. Warnken, is that his name, Mike?
Yeah, Michael
Warnken, yeah.
Yeah, he's got it right that this is not representative anymore. we as an actual collective group of voters really don't impact those politicians unless it gets hot for them.
Right.
Because they represent so many of us in one district that they've become just unaccessible.
Right. Well, and at the end of the day, everybody wants peace. They just spell it differently, right?
Yeah, right. Yep.
or everybody wants a piece of the pie. That's what we were talking about.
Right. Well, I don't want to
The
take up
thing
too
is,
much
at
of your
the
time
end of
here. I
the
know you guys
day-
may have other callers. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Well, I was just going to say, at the end of the day, if we all sat down, you would find, I believe, like Ralph Nader does in his last book, where he said that 80% of the American people are on the same page. The differences really aren't that great, but we're never talking about them. We're never debating them. We've got this arena mentality, this party over principle kind of thing going that we have got to get out from under and start thinking for ourselves again, deploying critical skills, looking for news alternatives like Dave's, and start getting engaged again on a meaningful, really, truly truthful information level, data that's actually verifiable. You can source it, you can link to it, you can verify it.
Well, guys,
And then get involved locally.
no, it's great. Scott, do you want to go on, or you want to get out of here? Because I know you got.
No, I think that, as always, it's wonderful to be here on Monday night, and I hope other people enjoy it. And I'd like to be excused, if I may, so I can go eat, because I'm still at the office.
Yeah, I got.
Every time he says that, it makes me laugh. I know it's coming, and I think that every time he says it, it makes me laugh. He's got to go eat, you guys. Got he hungry?
Yeah. Well, I gotta get out of here too. I got a daughter going to Georgia.
But I want to, hey, John, it's great to hear your voice. I was thinking about you and I almost called you, but I've been really, really busy. I'm hoping that it will let up a little bit this week. But
Well, Dave, thanks so much for being on.
Yeah, John, it was a pleasure.
For listening on it. Scott,
I'm going to go look you up right away.
And David, thank you very, very much for being our guest. And, of course, I thank you, Doc G, for being the greatest producer in the world. And please come back on Monday nights, folks. Let's work together to take our country back from this empire and get rid of these bankers.
Very true. Thanks, guys, for being here. I appreciate you all coming. John Wright, thanks. David Melchior, we'll get in touch with you and check out his libertychronicles.net. Everybody have a great day and a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.